Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now partner of a fabulous 20-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours over the last 20 years to Italy, Spain, and soon Napa. And in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. We are excited to now be in our second season, and our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture to all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. So sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury, meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. Welcome everyone, and thanks again for listening to our podcast, Inspiring Living. Welcome to Season 2, and today I have a very special podcast featuring two members of the Candelaria Design Team. First, I have architect Jeff Kramer, who has been a part of my staff for nearly 20 years. And then we will introduce our new Candelaria Design, Jeff Kramer, MVP for 2020. So stay tuned for that. Isabel and I had a fantastic trip to Carmel, California last weekend, and we were welcomed to stay in the home of one of our Candelaria Design and Earth and Images clients, and we had such a good time. So a special thank you to them. And we are now zooming our way through September. Can you believe that? And our Candelaria Design Team is now in week 27 of working from home. Thanks to all of you who tuned into our Candelaria Design cooking class yesterday on Instagram Live, where my Isabel made her delicious butternut squash red chili chicken enchiladas, and we celebrated my mom Karen's birthday. She had a great time. We all had a great time, and so thank you for all the birthday wishes. Very, very special day. So much fun, and those enchiladas were amazing. The recipe is on our Candelaria Design website, and we will post the edited video of the Candelaria cooking class on YouTube and IGTV and our website, so stay tuned for that. Finally, send us your email and sign up for our virtual Candelaria Design Tour Italy beginning Tuesday, September 29th and running until my 60th birthday on October 13th, where we will all virtually celebrate from Lake Como, where we were supposed to celebrate, but with the travel restrictions to Italy, we will just have to do it virtually. But now you can all join in the fun. So get on board with that. We will send you an email each day with content from each day of the tour, had we done the actual tour. We will have plenty on social media too, so we will make the best of not being able to go this year, and we will just do it virtually instead. Okay, I want to give a big thank you to all of you who have been listening to our podcast as our listeners keep growing nicely. We had another amazing month of downloads last month, so thank you. Thank you also for the ratings and reviews. I really appreciate those, and here's the deal. The first review we get dated September 14th or later will receive a free Candelaria Collection pasta maker. So give us some love on those ratings and reviews. We do our best to inspire and living in everything we do, from our podcast to our cooking classes to our tours, and of course, with our Candelaria Design homes. So, okay, have a great week, everyone. Stay safe, and let's all live our lives with love, compassion, grace, and positivity. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm very, very excited about this morning. I've got two very special people in my life that I've had the pleasure of collaborating with, working with, traveling with. We've had some good times. And I've got one of my all-time favorites in here with me today, Mr. Jeff Kramer, who's been who's been with me for over nearly 20 years. I think we're right about your anniversary, aren't we?
Celebrating 20 years next month. And thank you for those kind words, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here in person rather than on a Zoom screen or communicating.
It is nice, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're special to me in a number of ways. I mean, obviously, we worked together for many years, but I've actually really experienced your whole family growing up. Jason and Rachel, from little tiny kids. I remember at the Diamondbacks games and camping and breaking rocks, and now Jason has his business Osteo Strong
in Tempe. Correct.
In Tempe, yeah. And I'm one of his clients. I need to get back over there now that we haven't been playing volleyball. I haven't been going down that way, but now that you bring it all up, I'm going to just pop down there anyway because I miss him and I need the physical therapy. So
it really works for me, and he's got a lot of other recovery type products there that do a lot of good.
Yeah. So your audio broke up a little bit there.
Sorry.
Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
There might be something wrong with that cord, so we got to kind of watch that. And then Rachel, she is now going to Italy, right? Or she's already left.
She arrived in Italy a week ago. She is playing professional volleyball there.
After completing a career at the University of Florida.
Correct. She graduated this summer with a master's degree in international business from the University of Florida and was able to sign a professional volleyball contract in Italy. Flew there a week ago and now is in the process of mandatory quarantine and testing and hopes to be cleared later this week. You know, Italy has been very cautious about the COVID, and they're very cautious about having Rachel, the only American, on their team. And so they're taking all necessary precautions, but I can't blame them in doing so.
No.
And Rachel is hoping to be ready to go later this week.
So where in Italy is she?
She's in a little town called Valle Foglia, which is on the Adriatic Sea, almost due east of Florence.
Okay.
So if you're in Florence, there's a large mountain range between Florence and the sea.
Yep.
And if you draw a straight line east, that's almost where Valle Foglia is. It's near Pesaro.
Yep.
About an hour and 20 south of Bologna.
Okay.
Along the
yeah,
coast.
I've been nearby there. When we take our shortcut from Umbria up to Venice, we kind of go through that little area right there. So I know basically what you're talking about. So yeah, your kids have grown up. It's pretty weird, isn't it?
It is. I think back, when I first started here, Jason was 5 and Rachel was 2.
Yeah.
And my goodness, 20 years has gone certainly quickly. And Yep, it doesn't seem possible.
No, and then I keep thinking about the next 20. I'm only 49 days away from my 60th birthday, and it just seems almost virtually impossible. But my body does feel like 60.
And you don't look a day over 59, so it's all good.
It's all good. Okay, then I'd be remiss by not mentioning your lovely wife, Carmel. She is amazing. I think of the two of you as two kindred spirits. I've loved watching your marriage and your progression as a couple, and you are just two of the most beautiful people I know.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. She is truly my better half in every single way. We often joke together that between us we make one complete great person because my weaknesses are her strengths and vice versa. And we seem to complement each other well, and I'm very lucky that she's a handy person because, as you know, I can draw things, but I can't install them.
Yeah, I think both you and I are the only power tool I can use is an electric eraser and a cell phone.
Mm-hmm. I'm right with you, and I'm challenged even on some of that. So, but Carmel is what she has is that she's brave enough to try anything, and with the help of YouTube videos these days, she figures that she can figure out most anything and how to do it, and has proven that to be very true.
There you go. Well, that's what I love about both of you is it's always the can-do attitude. So. That's always a good thing. So let's talk about Jeff Kramer. Jeff, where are you from originally?
I grew up in northern New Jersey in a town called Saddle River, which is in the very northeast quadrant of New Jersey. It's I guess you could call it a suburb of Manhattan because it's about a 45-minute drive to Manhattan, either through the George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel. But it was very much a quiet residential town and a wonderful place to grow up, really.
That's awesome. So I met your father. I don't recall if I ever met your mother or not.
No, my mom passed away in 1986.
Okay.
And so that's true. But yes, you did meet my father when he was out here visiting.
Yep. So when did you when did you want to become an architect? Was it when you were a young kid or was it later in life or?
Well, I was thinking about some of the influences in that. And, in my family, architecture had no presence. My dad and his father started a family business named Kramer Chemicals,
Okay.
and they grew that from nothing. And what they did was distribute industrial chemicals throughout the Northeast. And so I grew up in that environment. It was a business environment, but certainly not architecture and design.
Right.
I think what originally inspired me about architecture is my grandfather and my grandmother would spend the winter at the Arizona Biltmore Hotel
There you
here
go.
in Phoenix. And we would come out to visit them during our winter break, which was for 12 days every February. And you talk about an oasis in the middle of a snow-ridden environment when we could come from northern New Jersey to Phoenix, Arizona in the middle of February and
Pretty
stay at a
nice.
wonderful place like the Arizona Biltmore for 12 days. It was paradise. But looking back on it, the whole environment of the Arizona Biltmore, it was Frank Lloyd Wright co-designed, if you will.
Right.
He didn't take credit for it, but he certainly had a lot of influence on the design of the hotel. Great architecture, incredible gardens. Everything about the Biltmore was designed down to the motif that was used on the plates and throughout, even on the carpets. It was typical Wright and Taliesin inspired. And I think that had a lot of subliminal influence on me in terms of my love of design, space, proportion, gardens, etc. And so I had that as a background, and it was 7th grade when we had the dreaded project for history class of what are you going to be when you grow up? And the assignment was quite daunting at the time because you literally had to go and interview somebody in that chosen line of work profession.
Oh, interesting.
And so, the thought of a 7th grader trying to find an architect or a designer somewhere was a little bit challenging. But
that would be tough.
Ironically enough, there was a female architect named Eleanor Pedersen that lived in Saddle River that had studied at Taliesin. And she had designed a Taliesin-inspired, Wright-inspired home for herself. And she was so kind and allowed me to come and visit and interview her and talk about architecture, what she did. Literally from that day on, that was kind of my chosen path, that this was something special that I wanted to do. And, all credit to my father. I think the concept of having a son in the architecture business wasn't what he was thinking it might be, but he was always very supportive and, wonderfully kind and saying, go pursue what you want to do.
That's awesome. So did you take a lot of drafting or any of that in junior high or high school?
It was high school, and, I think everyone has a couple of teachers that they can remember back and say, this person was a huge influence on my life. And for me, that was a class called Technical Drawing at Ramsey High School. This was in the late 70s, so there were no computers.
Yeah, that's about when I was taking it too.
And William Davies taught technical drafting, and I absolutely loved his class. And what was so great about him is that he inspired the students, and he also taught them to be incredibly careful about what they drew and how they drew it. And his method of grading was extremely tough but fair. And I think that's always something that I remember to this day about his theories of how to make a drawing, the line weights, how to present a drawing, how to letter a drawing. Incredible. And
well, it obviously sunk in because you were the master at it.
Well, and I often wished I could have gone back and thanked Mr. Davies personally, because he was a huge influence on my process for that. And it really stuck with me for forever.
And mine was Hank Schmier, so same exact thing. We were probably drafting away in the late 70s at the same time, listening to Aerosmith and Nazareth in the background. And
well, the funny part about drafting back then is that you were drawing on what was really thin poster board, if you will. It wasn't even paper. And the thing about thin poster board is that if you drew something and you had to erase it, it left an imprint when you drew it the first time. So
I remember that.
Mr. Davies always talked about lay out your drawing lightly first. Make
4H.
sure.
very light.
4H lead in your pencil, exactly. Make sure it's the way you want it, and then, in his words, burn your lines in when you knew it was what you wanted to do. And
Right.
if you brought up that poster board and there were erasures and indentations going everywhere, your grade was going to suffer because it was obvious that you weren't following what he wanted you to do.
It brings back a lot of memories. So,
For sure.
So then from high school, you went off to college, and you kind of took an interesting path.
I went to Tulane in New Orleans for architecture school, and it was an interesting path.
So how do you go from New Jersey to New Orleans?
Well, I loved everything about New Jersey except the weather.
Yeah.
For me, I was never a cold weather person. Didn't like the winters. Really looked forward to coming to Arizona.
Yeah,
in February.
How come you didn't end up at ASU?
Mm-hmm. I think that was almost a little too far, but unknown at the time. I ended up applying to schools in Texas, Louisiana, and the South.
Okay.
Tulane was the best architecture program
Yep.
that I was accepted to at the time. And it seems funny these days in the world of travel and online everything, but I ended up accepting Tulane without ever having visited. I only knew it from a few brochures and from correspondence, and still remember the day vividly in August of 1980 where I had my 2 suitcases packed and my dad drove me to Newark Airport, put me on a Delta Airlines flight.
And off you went.
And
huh?
off I went.
Wow.
And, just kind of immersed myself. And, the first semester had its ups and downs as you get used to a new environment as a freshman. But Tulane was a fantastic school, and New Orleans was an amazing place to go to college in.
A lot of great architecture there.
A lot of great architecture, a lot
Great
of
food.
great food, a lot of distractions.
Yeah, okay.
Like any architecture class, we graduated perhaps half of what we started, but we lost most of them the first semester because they found they wanted to major in New Orleans and not in
major in
architecture.
Bourbon Street versus
major in Bourbon
architecture.
Street. Exactly. The architecture building was one of the first buildings on campus once you got off the streetcar line. The streetcar would take you to downtown New Orleans. It was the version of Uber in that day.
There you go.
You didn't want to drink and drive, so we would be in there working at 1 a.m. like architecture students do. And all of the folks that had a good time in New Orleans would be stumbling through our building, wondering what we were doing sitting there when we missed out on everything downtown.
Right.
Interesting. And a lot of people said, well, that sounds like more fun downtown than whatever I'm working on here on my board, so I think I'll switch to that.
Yep. So you lost a few along the way.
We lost a few along the way, indeed.
So was it a 4-year program, 6-year program? How long?
Tulane in those days was a 5-year bachelor's program. It was 5 years straight. So I was there for 5 consecutive years. Afterwards, they modified it and they gave out a master's degree afterwards for people that had completed that program because in later years they since had switched to a 4-year bachelor, 1-year master program.
A lot of schools seem to do that.
That's right.
Yep.
But for those of us that were there 5 years afterwards, I received the equivalent of a master's degree.
Okay, cool. So then from Tulane, how did you end up out here in Arizona?
Well, as I looked at it, I had 3 choices. I love New Orleans, but it honestly is a very challenging place to live, and we even see that now with the hurricane approaching. The entire city is below sea level, and every time it rained, you were always trying to move your car to higher ground, or I spent a lot of days walking in a pouring rain because it's just the nature of the climate. And I had a wonderful job offer there for a basic salary, but living in New Orleans was hard. And so I had that offer. I could have gone back to New Jersey and faced the winters.
Option 2.
Option 2 was New Jersey, facing the winters and a very expensive place to live if you're just starting out.
Sure.
Or option 3, I sent out a couple of resumes to Phoenix. You talk about why I didn't go to ASU. Maybe I got smarter in my 5 years at Tulane. But I thought, well, maybe I should see what's going on in Phoenix. And I was, again...
So those old trips brought back some memories.
It did, and it... I don't think I ever would have applied for a job in Phoenix if it hadn't been for my experiences at the Biltmore.
Yeah, there you go.
And so once again, I've been very lucky throughout my entire life. But in this case, I sent out an inquiry to a small but growing firm named Cannell and Kedor here in Phoenix. And they were kind enough to respond and give me a job offer even before I had graduated school.
Wow.
So I graduated in 1985. I packed up my car and drove here and, again, started it over from square one at Cannell and Kedor. And I ended up being there for 15 years, fantastic place, great people.
So where did you meet Carmel on the way?
Carmel and I, honestly, were introduced by mutual friends. It was kind of a blind date setup, if you will.
Here in Arizona.
Here in Arizona. Carmel's background was that her dad was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And they moved around through many places when she was younger, but permanently here since she was about 5. And I was working on a project at Candelaria Design Team with a contractor. The contractor's girlfriend sold pet supplies to Carmel's family pet business.
Gotcha.
So he knew me, the girlfriend knew Carmel,
Wow.
thought that we might be good for one another. Took a while for us to actually be able to have that first introduction, but it did, and that was, the rest, as they say, is history. It really was.
So where was his first introduction?
We had gone to a birthday party for the girlfriend, and a lot of pet shop folks were there, and I came along with the contractor friend. Ironically, that night I sat next to Carmel's mom.
Okay.
I think she did the pre-interview.
Yeah, there you go.
And the check to make sure that
Yeah.
I was everything
You
that they
get
were
the
hearing.
first check off the list right away.
Right. So as I joked later, if I could impress Mama,
Yeah, it was
then
all
the
easy from
rest
there.
is downhill. And so, yeah, everything after that, we dated for probably 15 months before we became engaged, and then we were married in 1990.
Wow, good for you.
Mhm.
That's a great
So
story.
celebrating 30 years of marriage this year.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, you two are a classic couple of how to do it right in my book. So I'm glad that all has worked out for you and your family. You're very, very lucky, of course.
Thank you. We say that every day.
Yep. So Candelaria Design Team for what, 15 years?
15 years, from 1985 to 2000. Hugh Cannell and Phil Kedor are two of the finest human beings on the planet that I've ever known. They both have so much integrity. They're an architect's architect, if you will. Hugh taught me how to care and give every ounce you have to every project.
Yep.
To treat clients well and fairly.
Yep.
To really care about doing architecture rather than just something that we could draw up or they could get
a
somewhere
set
else.
of plans done.
Yeah, and I worked on an interesting variety of projects at Candelaria Design Team. Amongst the earlier ones was that we did work for Hugh's uncle Frank, who was the head of Cannell Homes.
There you go.
They were a local home builder, and did many communities around the valley. And I think that was a wonderful experience because it taught me how to think efficiently and how to do the most with small spaces and how to analyze even the smallest of spaces, because for Cannell Homes, their market was more of the starter home market.
Right.
And how do you make these homes feel bigger? How do you make them feel more well-designed than their competition? What separates them?
Right.
As well as, how can we build it efficiently and not sacrifice aesthetics and whatnot. So there was a lot of really valuable lessons learned in that.
Yeah. So you enjoyed the residential side of things, though, didn't you?
Very much so. I worked on a wide variety of projects. Residential was always my favorite, both custom.
Yep.
And
they did some custom work, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Specific custom homes and interesting sites for interesting clients. We did the first new dormitory at ASU in a long time. It's funny to think now because the ASU campus has expanded so
I mean, I hardly recognize it.
exponentially, yes.
Yeah.
But back in the late 80s, they had put out an RFP for the first new residential dorm to be built in a long time.
Yeah.
And it was what they called South Campus, which really is just south of Apache.
Gotcha.
And it was an open competition that we, as Candelaria Design Team, had partnered with William Turnbull and Associates in San Francisco and were selected to do the building.
Interesting.
For us, that was an incredible opportunity to work with somebody as talented as William Turnbull. Charles Moore's partner from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Crazy.
Incredible reputation and work in Sea Ranch in California and other places. And so learning from a master architect like that, what it takes to put a building together was valuable. And I think that project informed me from another perspective, is that it was a legal minefield, if you will, on doing a public student housing complex,
Oh my gosh.
and all the things liability-wise that
Right.
could go wrong for an architectural firm, for a university. There was a whole process of evaluation of, the design. Uh, Bill Turnbull very much wanted to do an open courtyard and a building that did not feel, in his words, prison-like.
Right.
And
Right.
by prison, he was only referring to everything is internalized, and it's very standardized. He wanted to do an interesting building open to a central courtyard, and my goodness, the idea of having balconies open to a courtyard below
With college students.
with cable railings, with college
Ooh.
students. As you can imagine, we had a lot of interesting discussions, and it was, a real learning experience for me, young in my career. I had just been registered to see all of the things that truly go into public buildings, even though
Right.
it was residential in nature. A great learning project.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just so much detail that you don't even think about. People don't even appreciate.
No, and the building is still used today. I will say it's the most interesting 1-year warranty walkthrough that I have ever had in a project to see what that building was like after students had occupied
my
it for the
gosh.
first year. I think some pets from Carmel's family pet store actually made it into that building and lived for a while.
It's a full circle experience.
Made themselves at home, literally.
That's crazy.
Exactly. But
So after 15 years at Canal Cador, I recall getting a phone call from Sandra Evans, who was an interior designer there, right?
that is correct.
And she called. She goes, I want to talk to you. I've got this good friend who I work with, and he's an amazing architect. But I think he's thinking of changing paths and getting a little more into residential. And I know you started your firm. So my firm was not even a year old.
Mm-hmm.
And I obviously at that point know I needed some help. And so I said yes, and I'd love to speak to him. Have him call me. I can't remember if you came by or
I did call you at Sandra's request because I
Yep.
believe you and Sandra had been working together on one of your residential
Yeah.
projects in Paradise Valley at the time.
Yeah, we had started one when I was still at CCBG, and we were just finishing it up. The Will Hoyt residence, which I'll mention, and bless Bill's heart, him and both his wife passed away this last year. So, but that's where I met Sandra, and because of that experience, that's where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spoke on the phone. I remember that. And I remember where I was. I was at where was I? I was at the Gap or something when I was taking your phone call. Yeah, that's where I was. I was at the Gap over at 20th Street and Camelback. And I remember getting off the phone and just going, boy, I don't know if I can afford this guy. He sounds really good on the phone. And I was really trying to justify spending the extra money that you were going to demand at the time, because then I just had some really junior flunky drafts people, and they weren't really getting me very far. And it was like, okay, if I'm really going to go with this, I need to get someone that has some great experience and really take this firm to the next level. I already had hired Vivian, but Vivian was just fresh out of college and could barely speak English, as you remember.
That's right.
And so I just kept thinking, and I can't remember. Then we finally met, right?
We did. My recollection of our first phone call is that we were very like-minded
Yep.
in our approach to architecture and client service.
I remember walking around the aisles at the Gap talking to you.
And you also had qualities that another architect who I greatly admired locally, the late Gordy Rogers, had. I'd met Gordy several times before, and one of his mottos was that the process of designing and building a custom home should be fun.
Right.
And too often it wasn't that. And I
Right.
think a lot of potential clients are intimidated at the fact that they hear stories that are not favorable and they don't think
Right.
it's going to be fun.
Right.
And you were one of the few people that I had spoken to that had that same mindset, that this should be an enjoyable experience.
Sure.
It should be about the client and what they want. And yes, let's have fun while we work very hard at the same time.
Yep.
And I remember thinking that really matches my philosophy of what I was trying to find at the time. And so, yeah, we spoke on the phone, and then I came into the office to chat with you. I still remember the wonderful Mira McHugh.
Yep. She was just
at
popping in my mind.
Yes, now Mira Perrin, but
Yep.
Mira McHugh back in those days,
Yep.
sitting at the front desk and being so welcoming. And I think you and I basically were on the page from the time
right away
that I walked in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really was that. I mean, with Vivian and you, that's when the firm really transitioned and really transformed into what it's become today. I really think the three of us set the culture of the firm at that point, and it's really kind of stayed that way and just grown from that that genesis of what we started at that point, which I think it's just amazing.
And I still remember you. It was almost a one-person shop in those days
Yeah.
because you were not only the head of the design and architecture, but billing at the end of the month and marketing and,
Yep.
you know.
I used to do the QuickBooks myself, did all the bills, did all the invoices, did all the payments. Ooh, those were some tough days.
You and your partners, Nacho and Lulu, your dogs at the time, that would help you out. But, there was an awful lot on your plate, as there still is today, but it was different in those days, and that it really was in its early stages, and it's amazing to
see where it's gone, isn't it?
Since that day, yes.
Yeah. Well, what you did is you brought a standard that I think we still all embrace today, and it was what we always call the Jeff Kramer standard. I mean, I think everyone measures their ability and their growth and their success by you. And I think it's a testament to what you just told us about some of your early teachings and in drafting school and then college. I think all of those things really helped form Jeff Kramer. Mm-hmm. And all of those characteristics and skills are what we embrace today in our company. So we've had some fun projects. I remember a couple times we had clients coming in that afternoon and we hadn't even started anything yet, and we were rendering away and sketching and drawing, and boom, we had it done by 3 o'clock and we were ready to present.
No, Mark Candelaria wasn't worried. Jeff Kramer was trying to remain calm, at least outwardly. Yep. But yes, we had some amazing clients, projects, requests for different things in our homes. But the work was always
we got to keep this. We got to keep this a family show, Jeff.
Exactly. No, we shall leave it there. But the bottom line was that every project was really interesting and unique and something that you could get excited about, and a new challenge. And
well, just to mention a few, I mean, some of the probably one of the best projects that we worked on together that I think we're both very proud of. It's a real legacy project, is El Chorro. Mm-hmm. And that was a special project because it came at a very special time. The economy had just collapsed and there really wasn't a lot of work. And we were all fortunate to have El Chorro to kind of pull us through and keep us all busy. Not only just us, but so many trades, there was so many that really were, kept alive by that project.
I think that project was a true labor of love for everybody who was involved in it. And, of course, it started from the top down with Jackie and Bennett Dorrance, providing their vision, their leadership, setting the standard for what they wanted to achieve. And the other anecdote about that project was that it all came together so quickly. Yeah. Because I can remember us first meeting with Jackie late May. Yeah. And then Tim Mathewson and I got out there and started to field measure.
There were no existing plans.
No existing plans. No. So we were doing measure drawings, as we say. We weren't necessarily trying to figure out what was an as-built, but we were just trying to document what was the existing conditions in
that
early
thing was
June,
a rat nest.
In June with no air conditioning. Oh. And I still owe a debt to Tim Mathewson to this day, because he went into places in El Chorro that I did not have the bravery or the ability to
I don't think anyone's
get
been
into.
In some of those places since then.
I think even Jerry Meek left them alone when he was rebuilding everything there. Yeah. But, for design and documentation to start in January, to then have the project open for business by late February, I believe.
Right around Valentine's
Day. Yep. Second or third week in February is a testament to everyone involved, Jerry Meek and his entire construction team.
Yeah, Desert Star Construction.
Mm-hmm. Also the town of Paradise Valley was so good to work with us on the fly, if you will. And, we did our best to comply with everything they needed it to, because it was a special use permit. It was a special, classification. But yet they were part of this wonderful team that was able to complete all that work and have it open for business.
Plus, we did the whole LEED thing. I mean, the whole
LEED certified with materials, yes. And, again, a lot of this was figured out as we went along. And it took somebody like Jerry Meek and his team to really push this project along and to have decisions made when they needed to.
Well, it's one of my great lessons in life that I've learned is, everyone waits for utter perfection to start things. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's so many people that just never pull the trigger. And you'll never even know if you had it perfect because you never ended up trying. And that project was just a good example of, hey, let's get the vision and let's go. We'll dial it in as we go. And we did, and it's turned out to be just a great project. I mean, something we're all very, very proud of.
Very proud of. And, we just ate there last year before all of the situations went sideways.
Yeah, we had our 20-year anniversary there, too.
We did have our 20-year anniversary dinner there. Still, to this day, wonderful ambiance, food, just a very magical place. Tim and his bride Amber were married there a few years ago. So it's been, that was, one of the other unique things to see, that all these years later, Tim and Amber would have their wedding at the same place that we were crawling inside of, trying to measure. So
so a lot of great projects
special
along the way. El Chorro, the Hanley residence, was another LEED certified house that won the Gold Nugget Home of the Year in the whole country. I just look back. I could go forever. There's a long, long list.
No, a special one in my mind also would be the Barnhart residence for wonderful people, Dick and B. Barnhart. But at the time, in the early 2000s, that was the first custom home built in the Silverleaf neighborhood of DC Ranch. And
there were no roads. There was no water, right?
There was no roads and no water. And I can still remember you and I up there walking through pretty natural desert still, trying to figure out where one lot started and one lot ended. And I can still remember a water tank needing to be brought up so that wood framing could be started on the Barnhart residence to comply with the fire restrictions for wood framing. And to, again, fast forward to see all the incredible homes that not only we've done, but Silverleaf has evolved to into a community. It's amazing.
It's amazing, Totally. And then we've had some good trips in Coeur d'Alene, too. He came up there a few times with the kids and family, and we've got some great memories. And we've got some great memories we've forgotten about.
I think so, and maybe they're best for being forgotten. But, Coeur d'Alene is another one of those magical places, especially in the summertime. And, I still remember the first time that Carmel and I and the kids went up there to your place.
I think you went there before I went there. You actually went to my house before I had ever been there.
The hard part was getting to your house at about 12:30 in the morning, because to get to Coeur d'Alene, you fly to Spokane. And then you rent a car and you drive from Spokane. And so we did that on a Friday evening. And you get into Spokane around 10:30, you get your car. And so it's literally after midnight.
This is before cell phones, from what I remember.
I'm still flipping through a paper map saying, Carmel, do you know where we are? And it just really was the most dark environment. You talk about a night sky ordinance. There was no light whatsoever.
The only light was from the eyeballs of bears and moose that were
exactly.
walking by.
And so we made a few wrong turns, and somehow magically were able to finally find the house, and we get the kids to bed. And you were still putting together the interiors on your house, so window coverings weren't in yet. And I discovered the other lesson about Coeur d'Alene in June is the sun comes up really early in the morning. About 3:30 to 3:45, exactly.
So that was a short night.
That'll shine in your eyes and wake you up. And
you went from no light to a lot of light.
But we made ourselves useful as house guests. We assembled some patio furniture for you that time.
That's so funny.
And once again, thanks to Carmel being there, because if it was only me, I don't think it would have turned out anything like something you could sit on.
That's funny.
But because of Carmel's expertise, you had some patio furniture at least to use when you came back.
We had some good memories on the boat, and we had some good memories of our friend Patrick Murphy, whose house was right below us, and a lot of good times.
A lot of good times. You were kind enough to invite us over to Gaza Ranch for a game of golf. And
my daughter Bella's working there now. Can you believe that?
I know. How ironic, right? Talk about full circle.
She went from the kids club to working the kids club.
And that set a tough standard for my son Jason, who I think one of his first rounds of golf was at Gaza Ranch.
Oh, interesting.
And when you haven't played a lot of courses and you start at Gaza Ranch and you see the fact that they have a little, in his words, a meat hut.
Yes.
After about the sixth hole, where they'll grill you up a piece of meat in a comfort station and give you something to drink, and there isn't a bad blade of grass anywhere on the golf course. That set only led to, shall we say, minor disappointments in the future when you see that all golf courses aren't like Gaza Ranch, and they don't necessarily have comfort stations around that will cook you a piece of meat.
That was pretty good living, for sure.
In his mind, he still would like to, get back to that someday, that level, because that's a great way to play golf, for sure.
Pretty much the epitome, for sure.
Right.
So in the years that you've kind of slowed down a little bit in terms of being here day to day,
Hmm.
and you're enjoying life. You got a place up in Prescott.
Yeah, our lives have taken a few different turns. I left here in 2014 in terms of working full time, but
Right.
you and everyone have been so kind to keep me around, keep me on the email list, what have you. And my role here is different now, but it's still great to be involved with
Yeah. Well,
everyone.
basically, what we do now is because of Jeff's high standards and his experience, we make sure that every set of plans that we produce goes through Jeff Kramer. It has to go through the Jeff Kramer red line, and we call it the QC, quality control, right?
Quality control. I'm sure there are other names that people might use, especially
depending on how many red lines they
depending
get.
upon the red lines. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. I am privileged to review every set of construction drawings concurrently while the municipality reviews them for permit.
Yep.
With the goal of picking up whatever comments I have and whatever comments the municipality have, and giving the contractor a better set of plans
Right.
to
There's
to
no
build
such
from.
thing as a perfect set of plans. So they wouldn't call them plans if they were perfect.
No, and I nor any architect in history, I believe, has done a perfect
No.
set of plans. But I always tell everybody here that if we can get to 90 or 95%, if you equate it to a school grade, well, that's an A.
Right.
And if we can be producing A sets of plans, I believe that we're at
We're
the
doing a
upper
good
end
job.
of the quality standard. And so, that's our goal, and that's my goal. I'm not going to catch everything on the plans
Nope.
that I could, and neither will the municipality and neither will the architects here. But if we can consistently get to an A level, the rest of it, there's always
Doing
going to
pretty
be
good.
things you figure out in the field.
Yeah, exactly. So in going through this whole process, a few years ago, we decided that we would name our most valuable player award that we give to one of our employees every year after you. I think it is definitely an honor that everyone in our firm, takes extremely serious. They love the fact that they win the Jeff Kramer MVP award, and we've been doing it for what, maybe 6 years or 5 or 6 years now.
Five or 6 years now, yeah, and I'm very grateful for that, Mark. As I joke, there's not too many times that a person can present an award that actually has his name on it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
More times than not, that's done posthumously. So I'm very grateful and honored for that. And I think the other thing that makes it such a great award is that each year's winner is not voted on by me. It's voted on by the Candelaria Design peers as an entire company. I only get the honor of presenting the award. But I think that for the individual that wins it, it's special because it's a reflection that their peers feel like they have done the best work and epitomize all the qualities that go into that award.
Right. And it's not just the technical aspects, it's the human aspects. It's all different aspects that make you a great member and asset of our company, which you have always been, Jeff. So I think it's great that legacy kind of carries on now.
And I appreciate that. I think a big part of what we do, and you've said this on many occasions, is that we don't draw plans.
Right.
We inspire solutions for dreams. We create solutions for dreams, but we also serve our clients, and they become our trusted partners and friends along the way.
Yep.
And it's all about the relationship
and the experience
and providing them with what we've talked about internally to be the Ritz-Carlton level of service, or something that always strives to be better and above expectations. And that was always my intention, to try and exceed whatever expectations the client had.
Yeah, well, you've definitely done that. And again, I'm so glad you have chosen to stay a part of our firm and still contribute in the way you're doing. I think it's great. I think it works great for you. It works great for us. So it's a real win-win situation. It's obviously great for the client too. So.
No, thank you. It's great to be involved. You asked about our lives recently, and yeah, we find ourselves now as empty nesters trying to simplify, if you will. And so, last year we sold our 27-year-old family home in Ahwatukee and downsized into a one-bedroom condo on Tempe Town Lake, which was a big change.
Yep.
But that's offset by the fact that we were also fortunate to have a home up in a community named Talking Rock Ranch, north of Prescott,
Which
is
we're doing a couple houses up there right now.
right. Candelaria Design has 2 houses under construction for great clients
Yep.
who have become our personal friends there within Talking Rock. And it's a great escape in terms of, a different climate and fresh air, and it gives us an opportunity to do outdoor things like golf year-round and, socialize year-round.
So you're enjoying it.
We really are. We've met a lot of wonderful people there. Dan Boylan and DLB Custom Homes, who's building both of those projects of ours in Talking Rock, is a incredible human being, does very, very great work, very passionate about what he does.
Yep.
And
very detailed.
He and his wife Terry have also become friends of ours. So it never ceases to amaze me what a small world, what a small circle the design construction business is in Phoenix, one of the largest cities in the country, but yet it's a very small community, and it reinforces the fact that word of mouth and a solid reputation will get you so much further than any advertisement you can put in prints.
Well, I always like to say hard work sure makes you lucky, doesn't it?
The harder you work, the luckier you get. And the best form of advertising is when unsolicited someone else will talk about you and your work.
Absolutely. So we have an MVP award winner this year, Mr. Mathew Grove, who we're going to introduce here in just a little bit. Tell us a few thoughts on your end about Mathew.
I'm so happy for Matt to have won this award. Matt first started with Candelaria Design maybe a month before I transitioned.
About 5 years ago.
From being full-time back in 2014.
Yep, okay.
And he came to us as a young, eager, fresh-faced
He was an
individual.
intern for a little while. He used to drive. He was U of A, so he would drive up from Tucson to do his intern work every afternoon and then drive back.
Now, that's dedication, for sure. But that impressed me and others because it showed his level of dedication and commitment to learning.
Yep.
And that is, to me, one of the most important factors for any young professional is that you've got to be willing to learn, to serve your apprenticeship.
I mean, we're still learning, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
like
hope
it never
to
ends,
stop.
right?
No. But to show that level of dedication early, I remember Matt was very anxious to go out with me and look at construction sites that I needed to observe and to learn. So I took Matt out with me a couple times in the field, and you could see his nature was always wanting to learn why and how, and that he would be a hard worker.
Yep.
And to see Matt then evolve through his process here to
it's amazing, isn't it?
QC his work over the years and see the quality of his work continue to improve, and the questions that he'll ask become more and more intelligent, if you will, over the years. It's been really rewarding to see him grow as an architect and as a person.
Isn't that one of the best things about your career is the mentorship and just passing your knowledge and watching people grow? To me, that's been one of the best things I've loved about this, and I learned a lot of it, from George the same way. But I always, I knew he liked to teach. He's obviously a professor at ASU, but I never quite understood the joy it must have brought him that I do understand now. Does that make sense?
It's really special, and I was the same way. In my first job in high school, I interned in an architecture firm where literally I cleaned the pen drawer and I made prints and I got coffee. But just being in that environment and being willing to learn, that led me to a full-time summer position with that firm all throughout college. And I think nothing but good things can happen if you're willing to learn, open-minded, and then once you get older, and I'll put that in quotation marks with you and I because we're very close in age, but for us to be the mentors now to younger people and to watch them develop and to see a willingness to learn, it is really special.
It's very special. Well, I think we should go get Matt, and let's present him the MVP award.
I would be honored. Thanks.
All right, hold on. Okay, so we are ready to present our 2020 MVP Award for Candelaria Design. I've got Jeff Kramer here, who the award is named after. It's the Jeff Kramer MVP Award. And we've got our 2020 recipient, Mathew Grove, sitting here. And welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me. Oh, sorry. Thank you for having me. It's a great honor.
So I'm going to have Jeff present the award, which I have it right here if I can reach it. Here we go. There you go, Jeff. Say a few words, please.
Indeed. Matt, I'm very honored to present you with the 2020 Kramer Award. I think that I first met you right before I transitioned away from being here full time, and I was immediately struck by your not only your good nature but your willingness to learn, your willingness to, you know, improve and always be better at architecture. And it's been an honor and a privilege to see you grow over the years and to QC your sets and to see the improvement in your work. And every time I get a new set from you, I always see improvement over the last. And I think the fact that this is voted on by the members of Candelaria Design as a team, and it signifies that you've exemplify everything that the award is about. So it's my privilege, and congratulations, Matt.
No, thank you so much. Especially means a lot from both of you, my two mentors. Yep, two mentors here. I can always reach out to either of them if I have questions, and it's been a great learning experience. It's been a lot of fun. There's plenty more to come.
Hopefully, plenty more to come, right?
Yep. And plenty more QCs to come, and I'll keep learning. I'll keep doing the best I can, and goal is to be the best team member that I can.
So what do you think? Pretty fun?
Yes, absolutely.
Honored?
There's nothing. I'm very honored, and I can't imagine doing anything else. This has been a blast, and I hope it continues to be.
Well, you epitomize what we both were talking about in the podcast preceding you here, about just your curiosity and your willingness to learn and your hard work and all of the values that we cherish so much in this company. You exemplify. So we appreciate. We're glad you're part of this team. So the MVP award, that's pretty darn cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge honor. If you look at the talent that we have, Damon's won it, Tim's won it. It's Vivian, especially Jeff Kramer, who is named after. It's a huge honor
to be in that group.
Absolutely. And in all honesty, with how great the team members that we have, I didn't think it was going to happen.
Well, I think you're I have to go check, but I think you're our youngest recipient of the award. Oh. So I'll have to go double check that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So that in itself is pretty remarkable. I think to win the Jeff Kramer Award generally goes to someone that's a real seasoned veteran. And at this point in your career, I'd say you're right there. So it's great to have you, and I think it's been fun to watch you grow. And I remember when I first met you at Postino's, when Sean Murphy, who was the son of one of my best friends and clients, Patrick Murphy, they were both talking you up pretty big. You were roommates with him back at U of A, and you're still roommates, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So Patrick would talk to me about you all the time. Says, Mr. C, I've got this kid at U of A. He's my son's roommate, and you've got to meet him. He's just like you. He works all the time. Oh, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's tee me up. Let's meet this kid. And we met at Postino's on some afternoon, and we kind of chit-chatted and got to know each other a little bit. And I said, well, why don't you start interning with us? And we were talking about it in the podcast with Jeff. You would drive all the way up from Tucson and work, 2-3 days a week or something like that. What was it?
I worked every Thursday and Friday. And what it was I really wanted to work for you, and I had been talking to Evelyn.
Yeah.
And I actually reworked my schedule for classes so that I could work 2 days a week up here in an affordable manner, just due to the drive.
Yeah.
So I would leave Tucson at 5 in the morning, drive up to Phoenix, work, and then spend the night in Phoenix, and then drive back Friday afternoon.
Wow. So when you spend the night here, where'd you spend the night at?
One of my friends who graduated the year before me lived up here, so that's who I stayed with.
And that went for how long did you do that?
6 months.
6 months. And then you graduated.
I graduated, and then I started full-time the week after.
That's right.
So.
And you've been here ever since.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where were you born? Where are you from originally? San Diego, right?
I'm from San Diego originally.
Yep.
East County, San Diego, so not from the city, kind of up in the mountains.
How'd you get into architecture?
That goes all the way back to when I was about 3.
Okay.
Which I think is common for architects. I could draw before I learned about Lincoln Logs and Legos.
Yep.
And then once I got my first set of Legos, I started going 3D.
Yep.
And instead of, my mom could get me a machine.
So was this all before SimCity and all that stuff? Or?
Yep. This is before computers.
Yeah. Okay.
And That was the following generation. So,
I didn't know which generation you were in.
Yeah.
So you're still in what we'd use, Lincoln Logs and Legos.
so, and instead of building some transformer, I would build like a house,
Right.
even if that wasn't what the Legos were for. I would
Right.
build for a fourth grade project.
You liked houses.
Yes.
Yep.
I built replicas of the missions in California out of
Interesting.
Legos.
Wow.
And that was third grade and fourth grade.
That's crazy.
So I've been 3D.
It's been in your blood ever since
Yep.
you were born. This is just part of your DNA.
Yep.
So did your parents recognize it right away?
Yes, they knew I would be an architect before I knew what an architect was.
Huh.
And then in high school, I was fortunate that one of my best friends that I played soccer with, his dad was an architect
Okay.
in San Diego.
Yep.
And he allowed me to come into their office and see what it was and
Yeah.
what they actually did. And
Cool.
I fell in love. So
Did you take drafting and stuff in high school, or did they have it in high school, or not?
a little bit,
A little bit.
not specific to architecture.
Yeah. So how did you? So from high school, you went right to U of A.
Yes.
Yep.
So
And you knew you wanted to get into the architecture program right out of the gate.
yes. So I was fortunate. My sister went to U of A,
Okay.
and she was 4 years ahead of me.
Okay.
So while I was in high school and I would come out to visit her, I would go visit the architecture school at U of A.
Gotcha.
And I got to meet professors, students,
Wow. Great.
take tours of the facilities.
Yeah.
and that's where I ended up.
That's where you ended up. So how did you meet Sean? Was it just random, or
He lived 2 doors down from me,
okay?
and we ran into each other one summer. I think the summer that I met you,
Yeah. Okay.
and it was just, every student had gone home.
Yeah.
He was still there, and I was working.
Huh.
So it just so happened to be that we were the only 2 people left at the apartment complex, and that's how we met.
That's how you met. Wow.
So-
And the rest is history.
Yes.
So from him, you met Pat, and Pat
Mhm.
told me about you, and we got the happy hour at Postino's, and here you
Mhm.
are.
Yep.
Right?
And that's a funny story. I came home late from work one night, and somehow Sean had broken into my condo with his dad, Patrick. They didn't break anything, but I guess he really wanted to show my sketchbooks.
Yeah.
So I came home from work, and they were in my condo going through the sketchbooks, and then they showed me your website, and I knew immediately. I was
Interesting. That's so crazy.
so
Yeah, and then you came, and we started, teaching you along the way, and just
Mhm.
got you on little projects here and there. And
Yeah.
we were just always impressed of your work ethic and how hard you worked and how much you wanted to learn and how quickly you learned things. It's like we would show you something once and you had it. It was like, okay, give him more, give him more, give him more. And now it's like you're working on everything. I mean,
Mhm.
you're working on some of the great projects. And we've got some amazing stuff we're doing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that's been engraved in my blood since as I can remember. My mom and dad both are responsible for that.
Yeah.
They're very hard workers. They translated that to my brother, my sister.
Yeah.
Fortunately, me and I just
Well, like
want-
Jeff and I said, hard work solves a lot of problems. So hard work makes you very lucky, right?
so-
So what's ahead for Matt? What are some of the things you're looking to? I know you're trying to get your license, right?
yeah, so I'm focused on that again.
Yep.
I just signed up for additional exam sessions.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable now.
Yep.
Um,
So you'll
Yeah,
get that pretty soon.
I
That'll
just-
be done.
Yeah, I had to delay my last 3 just because they got canceled. But
Oh yeah, the whole COVID thing.
I've gotten them rescheduled. I have one in September.
Good.
And then I'm trying to do one a month
Yeah.
after that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how you transpose yourself after you get that license. It's
Yeah.
one of those things that really changes, I think, your perception of yourself. And you'll notice it even from the outside. People will treat you differently when you can say, I'm an architect. It's one of the best things in the world that ever happened to me. So I'm very excited to watch that happen with you and what you're going to be doing with it. And I know everyone here feels the same way. We are just all so happy that you're part of this family, part of this firm, part of our culture. I think your future with us is really limitless, and it's really up to you where you want to take it. So I really feel that you are our future of this company for the next generation, and we're just super excited that you got this award. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited. So.
Yeah. So we have to go celebrate. And I think the award, if I remember right, I think it's a weekend or something at one of the resorts.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be pretty nice. And I think I mandated that you have to have a cocktail with me at wherever that resort is. So
Yes.
So we'll have to make that happen, right?
Absolutely.
And I know you love to cook, right? That's another thing about you that I think we need to talk about.
Yeah. So cooking and architecture are my two passions in life.
So see why you work here?
Yep.
Right?
Architect chefs.
So what do you think of the kitchen?
It's beautiful. It's awesome.
You ready to do some cooking in there with me, aren't you?
I attended one of the cooking classes, and it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
And looking forward to more.
Oh, I think we're going to do the Traeger on the back of the truck cooking class one night, right?
Yep.
So
I think I'm working with Evelyn right now and setting a date up for us.
Awesome.
Once we get everything back.
awesome. Now, why do you like cooking so much?
I'm not sure.
It's faster.
So what I do know is that it's my zen.
Yeah.
So
It's meditative for me.
Yeah, it's meditative.
Yeah.
It keeps me centered. It keeps me.
Yeah.
So a lot of people panic. I'm like, I could cook for 40 people and it wouldn't raise my blood pressure.
Well, that's perfect. That's what we need around here. So that's awesome. Well, congratulations, my friend. Great job. I'm very excited for all the things to come, and we're gonna do some great work together.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Congratulations.
Yep.
I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. I want to thank the Stockett team along with so many others who contributed to the success of our fabulous demonstration kitchen in our new Candelaria Design office expansion. You will have to check out our online video cooking classes, and our kitchen is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on many spectacular projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with, dined with, and just had good times, both personally and professionally, with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife, Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next tile and stone project, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is a part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.